Heyo, welcome back to the Undrafted and Unqualified Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm Anthony here with Vinny, doubling up on recordings today. We just got those top 12 wide receivers done. Now we're doing the top 12 tight ends. Last episode of all the ranking episodes that we do every year. So this will be a fun one. I'm very excited. I believe this is going to be episode 69 as well. So
Wow. Wow.
legendary episode here
Yeah,
with the
great
tight end
episode.
rankings. Um, but yeah, I mean, no more news because we're recording in the same day as the other one. And we talked about Genty in the other episode. So if you didn't see it, you want to hear a little bit about Genty, go check out the other episode. Um, but yeah, I think we can hop right into this. There are definitely some interesting conversations here across the board. So let's go right in at tight end 12. We have Dallas Goddard. I'm up at 10. Vinny's at 13, so he comes in at 12 for us. On ECR, he's at 13, in line with Vinny. And ADP, he is 13. Wow, so I'm the highest here. Um, I think this just feels like such a good pick to me this year, like a late round target. He dominated the touchdown department last year at 11, and yeah, we could absolutely see some regression there. But AJ Brown's out the door. Makai Lemon is just getting back to practice. It'll take him a minute to get back into the swing of things. And he is a rookie at the end of the day. You have Dontavian Wicks is kind of another name that's popped up. I really think Dallas Goedert has a very good chance to be the number two target in this offense. And last year he was the number three behind Brown and Devontae Smith. So now if he goes up to the number two target, continues to do well in the red zone, get some touchdowns. I think he's going to be a great pick. He's a late round tight end. You don't have to spend an early pick on him. And I think there is some upside with this guy. It's still Jalen Hurts. So, yeah, and also Eli Stowers, as we haven't heard anything about Stowers. I think Stowers will be a non factor this year. So, it's entirely Goddard's position. He'll be on the field all the time. And I think he could climb up to the second role on this team. So, I'm a big fan of Goddard this year for sure.
Yeah, and I think it is important to say that with like these part of the tight end rings, you kind of have to take it with a little bit of a grain of salt. This is probably the most volatile position where like you could be all across the board on guys where like you could have someone that's down at 18 ECR up here at 12 because you think they're going to do it this year. But yeah, similar things with Goddard. I think Stowers kind of not even just being a non-factor, but like he's looked bad. Like there's been a lot of bad clips of him at camp, like not looking the part yet. So I think that's a good sign for Dallas Goedert in terms of this year. And then, the one thing with him about like why he just can't go any higher is like last year was his best fantasy finish ever. And mostly due to the fact that, or entirely due to the fact that he had 11 touchdowns. So that was by far like double the amount that he's ever had recorded in a season almost. So it's hard to believe he'll return to that. But like you said, AJ Brown's gone. So like Makai Lemon's a rookie. Devontae Smith has never been a huge touchdown scorer. That's his chance to do that this year. But not a bad late round pick if you go with a guy in the middle that we're talking about, that we're going to go on to talk about. And definitely kind of like, not a lot of upside, but definitely a solid floor of a guy that's just going to be on the field for what we can expect to be, at least a decent offense.
Yeah, I think 7 to 8 touchdowns is pretty reasonable to project for this guy because you take out AJ Brown, who was great in the red zone. Honestly, I kind of think he does have a higher ceiling than you might, just because I think if he does claim that, second in the target order, those targets and receptions for him will go up. So, like the touchdowns, maybe they come down a little, but the targets and receptions can balance that out.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he's my favorite late round target at the tight end position, which, we'll get into it a little bit when we get into these kind of middle range tight ends, but it really feels like another year where I'm going to be either going tight end early or I'm just doing a dart throw late just because some of these middle ones feel weird or, they're going too early, whatever it may be. But
Yeah, no, you've been on Goddard since the beginning. I think he was part of our value episode like
yep,
a couple months ago. So you've been on that train pretty early.
yeah, for sure. Tight end 11. Just one spot higher than Goddard. We have Mark Andrews, who is ECR. He's at 15. And
Wow.
ADP Mark Andrews is at 15. So
Wow.
maybe this is free for us then. Like if we go to late rounds, tight end, if we go that route, like if we're up at 11 and he's down at 15 in ADP and ECR, like maybe people are just out because last year wasn't great. But I mean, Likely is gone. Isaiah Likely gone. Charlie Kohler gone. So you have Mark Andrews who's gonna have to be on the field all the time. They paid him. They're gonna utilize him. And honestly, we could maybe even chalk it up to like Harbaugh was very big on Likely. I mean, he brought him to New York. So maybe this says more about, the situation could bode very well for Andrews. Maybe he is done. Maybe he is old, but I think he could dominate on the targets and everything again. He feels very much like Goddard to me, where he could be second behind Zay Flowers. And I think he's got a better shot than Goddard to do that because, you have Bateman behind him and, Jacoby Lane is creating some buzz. But you're attached to Lamar Jackson, a high powered offense, Declan Doyle, fast paced, or as what they've been saying, it's more fast paced than what they're used to. I think this just feels like a great pick, and we know he scores touchdowns. Like that's kind of Mark Andrews' thing. So yeah, I think this is honestly Goddard and Andrews are probably my two favorite late round targets. Both very boring, but I think both very good picks with maybe low floors, but I think they have higher ceilings than what you'd expect for like these old boring guys.
Yeah, no, I'm shocked to hear him at 15. Like that feels way too low. And I'm honestly trying to think of reasons why, like that he would be that low. I mean, the connection he's shown in the past with Lamar, this has been like a true tight end one. He's well past those days, but the connection's real and the kind of monkey on his back that's been Isaiah Likely these past few years of like when is Isaiah Likely going to take over? Well, Isaiah Likely's gone now, so I think that should be another good reason of why he could return to like the semi form of what that connection was with Lamar Jackson. Maybe it's because Zay Flowers really took a step forward last year. Maybe it's because of Jacoby Lane. Like there's more options now, but you know maybe it's because it really was that bad last year. Like we had him on our sit every
Yeah.
week. Like we were just out on him, but like there's no one else in the tight end room to really challenge him for targets. So he's going to be out on the field a lot. So yeah, no, this feels like a great value and someone that like I'd feel comfortable just sticking with him as my only tight end and kind of if that's the case how you want to draft work the waiver wires if he doesn't end up working out. But
Yeah, I
yeah,
think
I like Andrews.
late round QB is one of those positions where I prefer to double up, especially with the depth. Like I'll take two shots, two shots
Mm-hmm.
late. If I go late round tight end though, I'm not doubling up. I notice I just don't double up on tight ends at the moment when I've been doing mock drafts and everything. And if you draft Andrews and if Andrews isn't good, like you just clear house. Like we know how bad it was last year. You just drop him. And, I know Kincaid is right on the outside, so maybe it's because Kincaid has more upside than Andrews, is why he's going higher. Same with Isaiah Likely. So I can understand them, but it just feels like the ceiling for, Andrews is just not being baked in. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you. Like, I'd draft him late, plug him in, and we're riding it out. If he stinks, he stinks. I'm cutting bait just because he's a late round tight end, anyways. So,
Exactly. For the price, it's like why wouldn't you?
yeah, exactly. Tight end 10, Travis Kelsey. I'm down at 11. Vinny's up at 8. ECR at 9. ADP at 10. And then we kind of are on the other ends of that. So he comes in at 10 for us. You're up at 8, though, the highest that, we see here in terms of ADP and everything. So why don't you
Yeah.
start off and tell us why you're still in on Kelsey?
I just think it's like the pedigree of this is a guy since like after his rookie year has never finished outside the top 10. Like, and that's crazy that 10 plus seasons of never finishing outside the top 10. I
Yeah.
mean, even as looking as close to last as most recent to last year, he was tight end 3 last year. Like, and he somehow put together that year where this guy just like I feel like we can't count him out until something dramatic happens, like a very serious injury or a retirement, which would obviously like take him out of the question entirely. Um, but like until that something happens, it's just he's attached to Mahomes. There's question marks about, and the reason I might be a little higher than consensus is, Rashee Rice, the clips haven't looked great about him. I'm not going to read too much into that. Like in terms of not looking fully ready yet, but he'll catch up to speed. And then Xavier Worthy, there's always been that inconsistency from him, and people are just trying to hype up guys like Cyrus Allen, but it all just still comes back to Kelsey being there, and he's just going to be that reliable piece that has always been able to remain on the field and stay healthy. He's been Mahomes' guy since for Mahomes got there, so it's just hard for me to have a guy like that outside of the top 10. And I really wanted to even get him higher. I just think it's at a point in his career where it just those days might be over. But again, if he had another top 5 tight end season, like we wouldn't really bat an eye. Like it's just like he's that caliber of player. So I just have to respect. It's more of like respect to the like that he's never done this before. So why would it be any different?
Yeah, I think I'm just out. He's about to be 37. He looks
Yeah.
slow too. Like there's a lot of buzz about Rice, Worthy not looking good, but I don't think Kelsey's looked good either. Um, so I think there's a lot of guys I'd rather just take a shot on. But again, I still have him in the top 12 because as you said, he still had a crazy finish last year. Like he's still producing and he's still attached to Mahomes. So I think there's a chance, but as long as Rice is on the field, I just wonder like they're going to compete for those short yardage targets. So that's kind of a concern for me along with the age. But yeah, I just couldn't really get him any lower just because, as you said too, he's finished top 10 like almost his entire career. So
And and even tight end 3 last year like came to a surprise. Like when I
it,
was looking at it, it was just like what, like how?
it
And
wasn't a
so
great year. I mean, tight end 2 through 12 last year were all extremely close in terms of total points. So it's
mhm,
it's like tight end 3 is definitely a surprise, but I think it's also like I'm not reading too much into last year. Like McBride was levels above everybody else, and then there was like a large group that were just kind of the same. So
mhm.
I think that's also why I'm like, tight end 3, I don't know if I buy it entirely because it could have been 2 points off and he could have been down a number of
Yeah, yeah,
spots. So,
exactly.
but yeah, I think feels like a solid spot for him here.
Mhm.
Tight end 9, George Kittle. He's at 10 ECR. ADP's got him at 9, so we're right there. Yeah, I mean this guy's so good when he's healthy, and they're saying there's a chance he plays week 1. This is the range now. Like I'll include Kelsey in there just because I'm out on Kelsey, but as we start going over these next like four-ish names, these are guys I'm just out on, I think, in terms of price. I think Kittle coming off an Achilles injury at how old is Kittle? Is he like 33? Um, he's
Uh,
32. He's about to be 33. So it is one of those situations where it's like he's getting older. He's coming off an Achilles injury. I know he's looking good. He dominates when he plays, but I think I am just baking in that injury risk. Like, I'd love him if he goes to like the eighth, ninth round. This is a guy I will draft.
mhm.
Absolutely over some of the other guys who are going a little earlier than him. But, we have to consider the fact that it's a major injury. It's not something, simple here that he's coming off of. So,
Yeah, no, it is like I feel like with a lot of these guys, it's hard to even like justify just because it's going to look so much different at the end of the year. But with these last two guys that we've talked about, like Kittle too, in the same realm of Kelsey, of just like monster years in the past, and they're not the same players. Kittle even is coming off this injury, which separates him even from Kelsey a little bit more, like puts him like closer. It makes it seem like he's closer to that age of 37, but he was still so good last year. And you know, it's hard not to imagine in that same Kyle Shanahan offense that when he's healthy and if he's fully healthy, that ninth round feels so good like that. It's just like it's a no brainer with the names that are around him at that point. So if you can wait on tight end and get him and then just pair him up with some of the guys that we talked about, like outside this top 12 that are just on the outside, then you're set, and you feel good. You should feel good about it.
Yeah, Kittle is the one tight end late that I will pair up because he might not be fully healthy. Um,
Yeah.
but
Yep.
otherwise, I'm just taking a shot and taking that one guy. But
Yeah.
yeah, uh, tight end eight. We can move right along here. We have Harold Fannin Jr. ECR's got him up at five, and ADP's at eight. Where we are, I'm a little higher. I'm at six. Vinny's at 10. So you're lower than everybody, community included. So why you got him down here at 10?
Yeah. For me, you can't deny the season Harold Fan had last year. It was amazing. He really showed that he like could really be one of these next young tight ends that we look to at the top of these rankings every year. Um, it's just like I need to see another year from him, and there's a lot of added pieces out of mouths to feed that got added to this offense with Casey Concepcion, who everyone's like talking about looking really good. Um, Denzel Boston, who like people have also he's had his months in preseason and in training camp where like, wow, this guy's like a steal and he's going to be a stud. And then there's still Jerry Judy there, like which is like not a huge name anymore, but it's still a mouth to feed. And then on top of all those guys, the guy that's throwing them the ball is Deshaun Watson. So like we saw what he could do with Shadur, but there was legitimately no one in that room to challenge him last year. And I just feel like these young rookies, these receivers are gonna be on the field. They're gonna want to get them involved. They want to get them the ball. So I can just imagine like some really bad weeks where like I question the consistency that he was able to provide last year, and that's just kind of the reason that like I would look elsewhere, and me looking elsewhere just kind of like kept going down the rankings for me, where I would just rather kind of have take the chance on Kittle and Kelsey continuing to be those like staples rather than go for a guy like Fannin at his price.
Yeah, I definitely have him ranked pretty high at six. I think he's just so dominant. But, I'll add on to that. I'm not drafting him at his price. I don't like where he's going. But he is healthy. A lot of these other guys we're going to talk about are currently dealing with injuries or are coming off a major injury, just like Kittle. So, I think that's part of the reason I got him there. And, I'm not super worried about the other receivers in the room, but I am worried about Deshaun Watson too. Like he
Yeah.
was very good with Shador. So I question how much Deshaun's gonna get him the ball. And Deshaun looked terrible during the preseason. And he's not a good dude. He's just
Yeah.
not. Like no apology, nothing. He's like upset that people are
Yeah.
booing him. It's like dude, because you're a bad person and you
And
have
you're
no
at he's been
regrets
horrible.
about it. Yeah.
And he's been
So,
horrible. Like
yeah.
so you know it's also just like the Browns, and it's similar to like what I've talked about in the Jets players like Brees Hall and Garrett Wilson. I just don't want to have a fantasy team and worry about like what's going to happen with these
Yeah.
teams every week. So I think that more so plays into a role, and it's not necessarily like Harold Fan's a really talented player. I just think he's in a tough spot.
Yeah, honestly, like the more we talk about it, I may bump him down a few spots. It really is Deshaun Watson to me. Like if it
Yeah.
was Shador, I'd feel great having him up at six. But yeah, it's just like Deshaun doesn't even utilize the tight end all that much. I just think
Hmm.
that overall, I think Fan is the most talented player in this receiving room. So that's
Yeah,
why I
I'd
still
agree.
feel okay about him. But
Hmm.
eight feels pretty good, I think, kind of that balance out there. Number seven, we have Kyle Pitts. I'm down at nine. Vinny's up at six. He's at seven in ECR. And wow, ADP, he's going at five. Uh,
Really?
that's really high. And, I gave you Fannin to start because you're down opposed to ADP. I'm down at nine compared to everybody else for Pitts. And here's why. Like everything adds up. This is going to be an incredible year for Pitts, right? Pitts is going to dominate. He's the second guy in this room. He's been getting more touchdowns each year of his career. He's going into year six. He's still like 24 years old. There's a lot to like about Pitts. And I'm not completely out unless I see him continue to go. Like in ESPN, he goes in like the sixth round. That's too early for me. And I think there's a lot to like, right? One of two guys in this offense, like I just said. You have Stefanski now, who loves to throw to the tight end. Tua the other day, it was like 4 passes he threw and he completed
Yeah.
3 of them all to Kyle Pitts. I
Yep.
I genuinely love it. Like my problem though, I looked at last year and yes, maybe I could do a little better of just like wipe last year and just move forward in terms of what I think could happen this year, which if that's the case, I will definitely move Pitts up. I just couldn't get past the fact that all his good games pretty much were all without Drake London. He is
Mm.
so much different with Drake London on the field compared to Drake London off the field. And I very much worry about how high his ceiling can be if Drake London is on the field. Now, if you were to tell me with Stefanski and Tua that it's going to change a little bit and Tua's going to get him the ball, maybe even more than Drake London. And maybe we are a little too high on Drake London and everything, but I really question what it's going to look like with Drake London on the field again because Pitts just isn't the same player with Drake London on the field.
Yeah, no, and not even just like when Jake London on the field, you can point to the fact that he had the best tight end week of all time, and
Yep.
that's like a
Yep.
huge outlier in terms of his like finish to the season, like 45 points in 1 week.
Yep.
You can't take it away from him, but it also, like, when you look at a season long production, it really does inflate a lot of the points per game and all of that because it's just the best tight end fantasy finish ever. So there's that as well. But for me, I think, like you said, it just I am excited about to see what Tua can do in this offense, and I think that does mean good years for Kyle Pitts. And Tua has liked to throw to tight ends in the past. Like Mike McDaniel did involve tight ends a lot. Like Jonnu Smith, what had good years. Mike Gesicki had good years, and these aren't good names. Like these aren't like high profile names, I should say. And Kyle Pitts is like as about as high profile as you can get for a tight end in terms of draft capital. His rookie year being one of the best rookie tight end seasons ever, and we're well past all that, but after kind of returning back to form, finally being like, okay, this kind of sort of looks like a top 5 pick that we drafted him at. And, I think adding Tua to that mix with his history of how he's like in help tight ends in terms of fantasy and just players overall, it just feels good for me. And I'm willing to I'm not necessarily willing to like get him at his ADP, but it's a spot that if it's the right build of your team and he falls to a good spot, then I'd feel very comfortable taking him and kind of dealing with like the bad weeks because that's just kind of what the tight end position is.
Yeah, if everybody's out and he falls, like I am kind of in on him. I'm just having so much trouble ranking him,
Mm-hmm.
Fanning, the injured guys who I think are just better if they're healthy. Like Kittle, I would if we said Kittle was fully healthy, not coming off an Achilles injury, I think he would very easily be above these two guys that we just
Oh yeah,
mentioned. It's
yeah,
just so difficult with the injuries and the prices of where everyone's going. I'm just hoping that like in my leagues that we're in one together too. Like I'm just hoping tight ends fall. I think that's kind of where I'm at because then I would take one of these guys here. If not, shoot, you guys can have them in the sixth, maybe the seventh or eighth
yeah.
round. Like, and I'm just gonna wait and take a dart throw that might not be a difference maker like these guys could be, but at the same time, they could very well finish within the same range.
Yeah, like just even thinking about in the six, it does feel gross. Like
So
just like
early.
think about how I'll mention it now, but like in my home league, which like you never know what's gonna happen in a home league, a lot of weird draft spots. But I got Colson leveling at the 5'10",
That's
and just
late.
thinking about that, like Kyle Pitts could be in that range for some people in
Yeah.
like the sixth. It's just like, oh man, like I don't want to do that. So
Yeah.
it's not even because like I don't think Kyle Pitts could have a good year, but it's just like in terms of team structure overall, it just like
Yeah.
doesn't feel like the best value on the board.
Yeah. I think with where I'm at with Pitts, I think I'm just gonna end up passing on him. I don't hate him this year. Like I said, all the chips are there for a great year. It's just very hard to kind of get me to where his value is at the moment.
Hmm. Yeah.
Tight end six, we have Sam Laporta. Laporta's 8 in ECR right now and 7 in ADP, so we're right there. Um, I think I brought Kyle Pitts down a spot below him, but Laporta again, injury, dealing with a hip, unsure about week one, as according to Dan Campbell. And that just makes him so tough to rank because if he's healthy, not dealing with a hip injury right now, it's like, okay, well, maybe I got him up at tight end five. I don't know. I mean, elite offense. We've seen him finish tight end one before. Like, this dude is legit. It's just now we're baking in an injury and he might not be ready for week one. Like, Kittle might be on the field before him. So it's just another tough situation. I think we're drafting him later than he's gone the past few years. So this feels like a good spot. I think tight end six is solid. As you said, Laporta went above Loveland. I don't like that simply because of the
Oh,
injury he's dealing with right now.
yeah.
But yeah, like if you're really in on Laporta and he's healthy, that's a good spot. Like that's fine. I don't blame you taking him above Loveland because we've seen it before. And elite offense, but it's again it's tough to rank these guys with injury and things like that. So I'll probably be out on him where he's going to.
Yeah, I think Laporte is a perfect example of like the tight end position can like it's one that you can't really judge a person of what they're doing. Even as we get to some of these top names of like the McBride and Bowers, like it's one or the other. Like some people, but like to focus on Laporta, I feel like he fits the build of a guy that I would be willing to invest in even more so than Pitts at the right price, just because of the fact that he's in a high profile offense where he's gonna have his weeks, and it might be more often than not that he has his weeks. So I think that's kind of what you want in your tight end. Like there's really only two or three guys at the position that are going to consistently give you a really solid floor of even like 10 plus points a week. So like Laporta could be one of those guys at his best, and if he's healthy out there. So to get him here at like where we have him at six, it does feel like a good spot for him, and there is some value there. But the injury right now does kind of get in the way of some stuff to kind of like go out there and reach and put a stamp on him because in order to kind of be a part of that high profile offense and have that consistent floor, you got to be on the field. So that's kind of where we're at with him right now. But six feels good. Like I feel like that's a good spot for him.
Yeah, for sure. Number five. Now we're on the same page here to the top. Number five, we got Tucker Kraft. We're both there. He is number six in ECR. He is number six in ADP. Man, and my biggest concern, like this is also a guy I will not be drafting this year because he will probably be going in a range where I don't want him. He said it himself where it's going to take him like 8 weeks to ramp up to a full workload. And with that, I don't want to draft a guy as good as he is and as much as he dominated last year. I don't want to draft a guy coming off an ACL injury if 7 weeks are going to be not full workload. Maybe it's 50% of the snaps. Maybe he's just not, the number one in the offense during that time. And I'd rather just not draft him early if that's the case. Because again, we want people who are on the field and getting stuff to go. But even with that, he's just so dominant that even if he's on the field for a limited number of snaps, we don't know what that looks like just yet. It could be 60% of snaps versus 90% of snaps. And if it's 60% of snaps and Jordan Love throws the ball to him 6 times and he catches 5 of them and he scores a touchdown, like Kraft can do that. And it feels like when he is there, he will take over this offense again because he is that good. So
Yeah, I mean it's a tough one for even me as a Packers fan, like following the situation more closely. I'm a little lost on like what we should actually believe. I've heard from Tucker Kraft that he's not him directly, obviously, but like in reports of like interviews, he's said that he feels really good, like he's well ahead of schedule and that he's just like a different breed and like all these funny quotes. And then it's like, oh, he might not ramp up until week 8, and like he's looked really good in camp though. So it's like really hard to judge. Where even though I liked the guy a lot last year, he was like really high on my board in terms of like I think he's the wide receiver, he's the number one target for the Packers, and that's what he looked like when healthy. But it is kind of getting to a point where like now people are starting to jump on the idea of like that he might be the wide receiver one there or like the number one target, and so his value is getting a little higher. And just with these like injury questions coming off the ACL, very serious injury, it just kind of puts him in the range where, for me now where it's like I'm not necessarily like auto topping draft in like the 6th or 7th round. And so he's a tough one. If it all is just that he's fully ready to go week one, it's a steal.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's really hard to read. Like we haven't gotten a solid answer yet, which I think is intentional.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's just one of those. Again, like all the guys we just listed, Kittle, Fannin, Pitts, Laporta, Kraft. One's currently injured, two are coming off major injuries, and two of them, there's just so many question marks about what it could be. Insanely low
Mhm,
floor, insanely high ceiling with Pitts and Fannin. So I
mhm.
think just where they're going in that like 6 to 8 round range, it just feels too early. Like I'd rather, if I don't have my tight end already, I'd rather just wait and spend a late pick and at that point too, if it doesn't pan out, like it's much easier to cut bait than if I spent a seventh round pick on you know uh, Tucker Craft and it's not panning out because then I'm gonna have to feel committed to him in my lineup. So I think that's the other thing with it too is I'd rather just I'll take my shot late, and if I miss on any of the guys, I miss on them. So that's kind of how I
Exactly.
feel with that in that range.
Yeah, exactly.
Top four. This is where I think I feel good drafting any of
Mhm.
these top four guys if they're at a good price. Tyler Warren here at number four. It's consensus across the board. ADP, ECR. We're there. Um, Warren also dealing with an injury right now. I forget. I think it's groin injury. So I think he should be good to go for week one, and that's great. I mean, with Daniel Jones, he was so dominant as a rookie. He's going into year two. He's probably going to lead this team in targets, receptions, touchdown. Like he will dominate because Alec Pierce is dealing with injury. Michael Pittman's out the door. Keenan Allen might even be a good pick along with Josh Downs
Yeah.
because there's nobody else to throw to. So Tyler Warren will dominate. Gotta hope he's on the field. He's going to be a PPR machine, right? If you play half PPR, I'd maybe actually hold a little more question marks on him. But in full PPR, this guy's going to be so good. Um,
Mhm.
but with the current injury, I'm probably not reaching any higher than the late fifth to get him. I'd consider him maybe fourth, late fourth if he wasn't hurt, because I've been in on him. But man, we want people on the field, and if
Mhm.
it's even at this point, like he's questionable for week one, like you can't invest too early in that. So it's a tough pick, but I would feel much more confident taking Warren than any of the guys we just mentioned.
Yeah, I honestly, so I was looking over at my phone a little bit while we were starting the episode because I got an alert from Sleeper that said Tyler Warren changed to out, status changed to out.
Really?
And I was like, whoa, what happened? And it looks like it's just that he's not practicing right now, but it says they're still having him like they're still hoping to have him available for the week one. So it's not anything IR related or that, but that was interesting that that came in. Maybe not the best sign that it's still like a major issue and it's keeping him out of practice.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of the ranking, let's imagine he's healthy. Even when healthy, the reason for me that I have him behind the guy who we're going to talk about next is because of the fact that when Daniel Jones went down and the whole offense sort of slowed down, and Jonathan Taylor included, it just like when things aren't perfect, it it wasn't good. Like he wasn't reliable. He wasn't a reliable fantasy asset. And in his case, rather than Colston Loveland's, I feel like it's so much more likely that things won't always be perfect on this Colts offense. Like maybe Daniel Jones might not even return to that form of just being a consistent guy to get people the ball. So I just feel like there's more question marks on the offense as a whole,
Yeah.
even though Tyler Warren, like there's so many targets available for him. I just feel like the offense has more question marks where there's just so much more upside with Loveland. But like you said, Warren is really not can't get much worse of a pick when healthy because there's so much targets to come his way. And when the targets did come his way with a healthy Daniel Jones and the offense was humming, he was really good. So that's something to look forward to going into the year if he's healthy.
Yeah, I completely agree. And they're, as you said, it was the most recent thing is they list him as out, but I guess he should be still okay for week one. So
Mm-hmm.
that helps a lot. Number three, Colston Loveland. Loveland's, I mean, I think we're both in on Loveland. You said you got him at the 5'10" in your draft.
Yeah.
That's a steal because honestly, you should start considering him in the third. I probably won't reach on him in the third, but you should consider him. And the fourth, that's probably the round he should go in. So it's like to get him at the late fifth is such a steal. I mean, we're on the
Yeah.
same page. We think he's going to lead this team in targets and receptions and be the target leader for the Bears. Elite
Hmm.
offense. We saw what he did in the playoffs last year and the end of the season. He was getting double digit targets. He dominated because he's a dog. They drafted him above Warren, who everybody thought Tyler Warren was the number one tight end coming into the NFL. They go ahead, draft him at 10. Comes out that, oh no, this guy, like other teams are trying to trade up to 10 to draft him. Like everybody wanted this guy, and it started to show at the end of the year. Burden's dealing with injury, Rome's coming off an injury. Like it should be Loveland in a high powered offense, Ben Johnson. I think we're all kind of buying into what it can be for season long, and I'm all for it. I think Loveland's going to be really good.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy that I've, taken a deeper dive into just to kind of because to me, the exact comparison for him, like the perfect comparison, is Trey McBride with what the ramp up, like, so for example, the ramp up that Trey McBride had in his second season going into his third year where he really blew up and it was on everyone's radar at that point. But it was almost identical to how Colson Loveland finished his rookie year where you're seeing 100-yard games, you're seeing 10 target games, you're seeing consistent, like in that 7 targets a game range from the tight end position. That's where you really find these studs like Kelsey, Kittle, Bowers, McBride that like win you fantasy leagues. And so I think the exciting part about Loveland is that like this really is the price baked in. Like we see where McBride's going, but this is a chance to get a guy that could potentially realistically put up the similar numbers and you're getting him 2, 3 rounds later.
Yep.
And of course, it is the risk because he hasn't done it yet. But I just think like even the playoff game, I go back to that one against the Packers, having to watch that guy dominate us and Caleb targeting him like 15 times. I was just
15
like,
times. Yep.
yeah, it's like this guy trusts this guy. Caleb trusts Loveland so much to do that to a rookie in the playoffs in your first playoff appearance and then go on to win that game and like mostly because of the game that those two had together.
Yep.
It's like how can that not carry over into the next season? And then just being the number one target in a Ben Johnson offense, it's just like holy shit, like what are we talking about? So there's just real upside here where like I know I made the take of tight end one. That's a real reach, I think, just because of the, pedigree of Bowers and McBride. But if all things work out, like it's a real possibility of the monster season this guy could have. So yeah, I'm ecstatic to get him at the 5'10". I think that's definitely a home league type of get for me. But if this guy starts to fall in your draft, I would just jump all over it.
Yeah, I'm trying to see here. Um, okay, so Cole Kmet is still with the Bears, but it really feels like they're phasing him out. Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like without a full-time role, even like he was still dominating targets a couple times. But 80% of snaps in week 8 and 9, he only had 5 targets. The first one, 6 points. The second one, 7 targets, 6 receptions, 118 yards, 2 touchdowns. It was a 32-point week with 80% of snaps. Let's go down further. Week 16, week 17, and week 18, it doesn't list the snaps. It just says 0 for whatever reason. But those weeks, he also had 80+% of snaps. Week 16, 5 targets, 6 points. Week 17, 10 targets, 21 points. Week 18, 13 targets, 25 points. As you said, wild card, 15 targets on 80% of snaps, 23 points. Like the
Yeah.
upside is there. He had 10 targets against the Rams, only turned it into 9 points, but even still, you're not upset about that. I
Mhm.
There's so much buzz around him too in camp. This dude is taking the next step, and I think we all have to just be there with it.
Yeah, and it's just like with this, everyone being in on the Bears offense, the only guy that doesn't have a question mark is him. and I guess DeAndre Swift, but we're talking about receivers right now. And like Luther's a little banged up.
And
Rome has
DJ
that
Moore's
lingering.
gone. DJ
Yeah,
Moore's
Rome has the
gone.
toe injury. DJ Moore's gone. Like there's just so many things, and it all points to, all right, well, this guy's just going to have a monster year, and
Yeah.
there's no questions about it unless there's injury. But
Yep.
that goes to say for everyone. So yeah, no, it's a really exciting player to just like want to get on your team.
Yep. Top two. Number two, we're on the same page. We both have McBride at two. Trey McBride comes in at two in ECR. ADP, he's going number one. He finished there last year. Unreal. This dude is dominant. I mean, this is who we're comparing Loveland to. We know he's going to do it, right? Regardless of the situation, we just know he's going to dominate again. PPR machine. 11 touchdowns might be a lot. It might be a lot to get to again this year. But even still, like it was always a question mark because he'd only have two touchdowns a year and was still going as a top three tight end. And now it's like even if it goes down, we should see him dominate again. He was so much better than everybody else last year at the tight end position, but he did also run like I read something. He ran like a full game's worth more routes than anybody else at the tight end position. So like he won't be doing that again. So we're baking in a little injury here. I think the two of us just understanding that that season's going to be very hard to repeat. Um, but he should still be himself. And if people are off, man, go take him because he
Yeah.
is going to be a great pick. If you take him late second or later, like that's a great pick. That's a really good pick.
No, there really isn't much to add about this guy. It's just really the definition of the next generation of these tight ends like we've kind of grown up with in our fantasy life of like Kelsey Kittle. Like it's that level of player. And
Yep.
that's not an overstatement. Like that's real. And I think even with the targets that I mean, he just demanded targets last year with names like Marvin Harrison and even Michael Wilson having big weeks. And through it all, Trey McBride still did what he did. So I think Mike LaFleur being there is exciting because there's already kind of hype around him of like what these guys see in the offense with him kind of running the show. And then Jeremiah Love being there, Jacoby Brissett kind of returning, who's the guy that McBride did this all with. So there's a lot of signs pointing towards that this Cardinals offense just could take like a real step forward. And I don't know if that means less for McBride, but I think you could just pencil in a really like elite stat line that's worthy of taking at the end of the second, or not maybe not the end of the second, but like end of the or middle beginning of the third.
Yeah. No, I think there's not much to say. He's a great pick this year. And tight end one, we got Bowers. ECR is in line with that. ADP's got him at two. Man, I mean, I talked about it a lot in that hot take where I think he could go for over 300 fantasy points this year, which that would be one of like seven player. He'd be one of seven if he were to do that to ever top 300 as a tight end in total PPR points, including McBride last year. I cannot see. I mean, he's going into the year healthy. You bring in Kirk Cousins, who helped Pitts score the most fantasy points at the tight end position in a game ever last year. Mendoza has he's not looked great, but you can feel comfortable enough with him where he'll get Bowers the ball. He will be that safety net for him. So, regardless of the QB situation, and he'll probably start as Kirk, like this is going to be a situation where he dominates. There is nobody else to throw the ball to. Ashton Genty is now hurt. Who do you use on this offense other than Bowers? Bowers will be limping off the field every game after getting 18 plus targets a game. Like this dude is he is going to dominate and he is that good. Like it's not like you have to force feed him because he's the only guy and he's decent. It's not like a Harold Fannin from last year. This guy is 10 times better than Harold Fannin. Like he alone, regardless of the team, is a top three tight end in the league. So yeah, I think we just both read it as Bowers has the ceiling higher than anybody else. Plus, he has an insanely high floor.
Yeah.
So he, people are saying first round, early second, the 1-2
Yeah.
turn. Fine, I'm okay with it. I'm on board. I'm on board. I
Yeah.
won't be doing that, but Yeah, I mean, he's going to be a great pick in fantasy this year.
Yeah, and like we talked about it a little bit before, and like I was like, I don't know if I could get there, but like you said, I personally wouldn't do it. But listen, there's a select few players, position or like positional players besides quarterback that score 300 points in a fantasy season. And the fact that this guy has a real chance to do it, go get him if you know you won't be able to get him at your next pick. So, um, yeah, and he's done everything we could ask of him. A generational prospect, showed out in his rookie year, finishing as the tight end one with a monster year, and then injuries were a thing last year. But they're just the offense gets better with Kubiak there, and like you said, Gentry's down. Like where else is the ball going to go besides Brock Bowers? So I, yeah, it's just he's going to have such a big year, and it's just a spot where I don't want to take him too high. But is there a spot where it gets too high? Like I don't know if there even is. So, yeah, it's just going to be fun to watch how these like top two, top three at the tight end finish out because there's a few guys that could just really separate your team and like put you in a spot in a positional advantage every week.
Yeah, for sure. And that just goes to that last point of like that feels like the route we're going this year. You go early or you go late and you shoot late. And just to reiterate some of these names we've talked about, Bowers, McBride, even Loveland in the fourth, or if he falls to the fifth, like he did for Vinny, you take him.
Yeah,
So any of those three, I think, are difference makers. And then, if you want to go late instead, take Andrews, take Goddard late. There's other names too that are like serious sleepers that aren't going to get drafted, which you can feel good about. So, you take your shot late if you don't get one of these top three. That's my personal opinion, but I think that's the route to go this year, as in most years, I feel like with the tight end.
yeah, no, absolutely. And it even like feels like people are reaching for the elite tight ends because of the fact that there's so many question marks in those middle of range guys, even down to 12. Where like, listen, let me just go get a guy that I can count on and never have to worry about the position again, and I'll figure out waivers for other positions of need. But
Hmm.
yeah, I'm in it. I'm glad. I'm feel great about getting Loveland at the late fifth, but
Yeah.
otherwise, I kind of would fade the position like you talked about.
Yeah. No, I agree. But all right, that'll do it. That'll wrap up the tight end rankings and the rankings in general. So that leaves us my guys next week, and then the season starts the week after. I know we do the my guys late. Usually, like drafts are already kind of going at that time. I think this year though we might be doing it. I know we'll probably release it. If we release it early next week, Um, it'll be before my own drafts. So depending on when you draft, you might get them out this year. But we do them late just to, it's kind of a big thing right before we go. And even if you do draft,
Mhm.
at least we still got our flags planted on these players.
Yep.
So something to look back to at the end of the year. But yeah, that's really exciting. We'll get those players in soon. I think we're almost locked on all six of them, three for each of us. And yeah, from there we'll get into the season. We'll change up the format a little in season this year because they were just too long last year. So we'll talk about that when we get to that point. But yeah, look forward to those my guys soon, and appreciate you tuning in. See y'all in the next episode.
Peace.